kind enough to zoom into this program live here on the Rich Eisen Show to kick off the final hour of this show, heading into Labor Day weekend for a big NFL season to kick off next week from the worldwide leader in sports. Many different shows and podcasts. Mina Kimes right here. How you doing, Mina?
I'm doing great. I was actually at the Dodgers-Braves game last night. What a game. What a ticket. What a moment between those two MVP candidates. So it was really fun to be there in person.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, and just seeing all that. And by the way, Messi's coming to town this weekend. It's a heck of a Los Angeles sports weekend for all of us to, enjoy before we go into our NFL worlds. Mina, I'm looking forward to it.
That means you got to kind of watch the traffic patterns. Being in LA,
traffic and weather together on the
game
on the
like
tube.
that. Exactly.
So let's jump into it. What is in your mind the biggest storyline entering the 2023 season for the NFL?
Oh man, the biggest storyline entering the 2023 season. I think it's got to be the Jets, right? I mean, I hate to say that because I know this entire summer, if you're not a Jets fan, you're probably really sick of hearing about the Jets. And I work at a network where we talk about the Jets a lot. I understand that. There's been Jets. There are hard knocks. Some people might call it Jets propaganda out there right now, but it is the best or the most interesting story in football, Rich, to me, because it feels like the variance for the potential for variance is so high. I mean, this is a team that either could be a legitimate Super Bowl contender, or it could go completely off the rails given how difficult the start of their schedule is.
Well, I mean, the start of their schedule, and it's Rodgers' health, because if the whole point of this was to make sure a team that had matured faster than expected had the steady hand at quarterback that's required in order to win games with a defense that does appear to be championship ready and a bunch of young players that appear to be big-time playmakers, from Garrett Wilson to hopefully Breece Hall being healthy. And that's the question. It's Rodgers' health, and as long as he stays healthy, the first 6 games of the season will tell the tale. That's for sure.
I think sort of lost in all of this, I mean, it's unclear at the moment how much Rodgers will bounce back from what we saw last year, which was not only a down year for him, but he was statistically one of the bottom 10 quarterbacks in the NFL by most metrics. And I think you can pin that on a lot of things, wide receivers, injuries, his injuries. But for him to come back this season and get anywhere close to how he's playing in 2020, 2021, there are very few examples in NFL history of quarterbacks at that age playing well, which is to say pushing 40 or after 40. Tom Brady is the exception, obviously, but when you look at quarterbacks like Drew Brees, for example, near the end of his career, Peyton Manning, they tend to hit a cliff at a certain point with age. So I think, there's a lot of questions about Aaron Rodgers, and one of which is, of course, and this is to your point about the defense, he doesn't have to be great for this team to be good. And I think that it sets a bit of a floor, perhaps, for his potential.
And obviously you'll be talking quite a bit about it. The first Monday night of the season on the worldwide leader and the family of networks is Bills and Jets. So how do you think the Bills are going to fare this year? I chose them to still win this division. It's theirs to win or lose. Your thoughts on that, Mina?
I agree with you. I weirdly feel like they're being underrated, which they're probably division favorites, so I don't want to play that game and straw man it, but it does feel to me or seem that there's some boredom with the Bills, perhaps fatigue after they came into the season as not just division favorites, but Super Bowl favorites or contenders and flamed out. But when I look at this roster, when I look at both the offense and the defense, it's still extremely stacked. The absence of Von Miller the first 3 weeks does concern me because I thought that pass rush, especially the 4-man rush, really dropped off without him in the second half of the season. But I don't have any reason to doubt that Josh Allen and this offense can pick up right where they left off, even when he was hurt at the end of last year.
Mina Kimes here from ESPN on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's talk about Russ, because that's an underrated story. That may be in the AFC. We just hit Jets, Bills. We could hit on every team in the AFC East. The AFC North is fascinating, soup to nuts, top to bottom. Then, of course, we're living in Mahomes' world. What's going to happen with Herbert now that he's been pizzade? And then the Raiders have a significant fan base, as we all know. Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, the marriage will look like what in year one, do you think?
I would say a minimization of the role of the quarterback whenever possible would be my guess. Everything the Broncos did this offseason in terms of the personnel that they brought in suggests that Sean Payton plans to run the football a great deal, with the offensive linemen and the running backs and tight ends that they added. And when I look at Russ last year and where he struggled, and also some of his inconsistencies in the previous 2 years in Seattle, I think my biggest takeaway is this is not a quarterback where you want to put a lot on his shoulders. You do want to have a very rush-heavy offensive game plan. Hopefully he can still hit a few those deep balls off of play action, but his mobility has declined a bit, doesn't really throw to the middle of the field, so you're somewhat limited in what you can do offensively.
Wait a minute. So let Russ game manage? That's a terrible hashtag, Mina.
I like that. Yeah. I think it's good.
Like, will it work? I mean, because it does appear to me that last year he was better doing the improvisational running on the throwing while on the run. That was the Russ cooking. You don't think that he's able to do that anymore?
I think it's very inconsistent at this point. And hopefully if your run game is so dominant that defenses actually key in on it a bit more, there will be some opportunities for him to get explosives. What I don't see, what I struggle to see when I watch him is, okay, what is the vision for that sort of efficient underneath offense that we associated with Payton in his final years at Drew Brees? They're wildly different quarterbacks. I don't really see that. I think you're going to see, a lot of tight ends on the field. They're already battling the injury bug with their wide receivers. And I really think let Russ game manage is a pretty good slogan for the Broncos 2023 season.
Mina Kimes from ESPN here on the Rich Eisen Show. I'm going to put a sports talk construct on the question I'm about to ask you, Mina.
Okay.
You may not say Chris Jones is holdout. That's the heads. You may not say that. The main issue that gives you concern for the Chiefs to repeat is what?
The offensive line changes. Is the second answer that I would give.
Okay.
This is an offensive line that has some change with Donovan Smith coming over at left tackle from Tampa, struggled last year. I think he was the most penalized left tackle in football, if I remember correctly. Very different stylistically from playing with Tom Brady, where that ball was coming out quickly. You got to pass protect longer, obviously, with Patrick Mahomes. Now, I will say there are things that will help him. I think the interior of the Chiefs' offensive line is one of the best in the NFL. And Mahomes does not take a lot of sacks despite holding on to the football. So he could have a bounce back year. But as you know all too well, the only thing we have seen slow Patrick Mahomes throughout the course of his NFL career has been a lack of pass protection, famously in the Super Bowl. So if I had to pick one thing, I don't really care who's catching the football in Kansas City. All I care is that the offensive line doesn't take a big step back.
Yeah, I'm done with that whole thing. If they remove Tyreek Hill and they win a Super Bowl and the offense doesn't seem to skip a beat in the passing game, I'm out on that. I'm done. I'm not taking any cheese looking at their wide receiver depth chart anymore. Certainly if Kelsey's still active and helpful and helping and all of that stuff. So I'm out on that front. I'm just, and this is what we do, Mina, and I'm sure you're going through this. I'm sure your colleagues in ESPN are going through this right now. It's like, are we really going to go on the air and predict them to win again? Because it hasn't happened since NFL Network first started. The first 2 years we existed was the last time that we were back-to-back Super Bowl champions, and we're turning 20. So I don't know. It's tough.
Every year, ESPN PR asks us, the NFL analysts, for like our picks, not just for the Super Bowl, but for who's going to be in the Super Bowl on both sides. It was so hard for me, Rich, not to do Eagles Chiefs. I kept trying to come up with different iterations. Oh, I think the Cowboys are really stacked on defense, and they're like the Jets, the Dolphins, the Bills, whatever. And ultimately, I do just think they're the best two teams in football. I mean, you talk about how hard it is for Super Bowl teams to repeat. It's very rare that Super Bowl losers make it back. I think in the last 20 years, maybe like one or two. It's few and far between. But when I look at the NFC, the Eagles are the best team. I really believe that they're the best team. I think that offense's continuity will serve them well. So I tried so hard to not pick those two teams, and it was really impossible for me at the end to come up with a different answer.
Well, but I guess, Purdy should, knock on wood for him, 17 games show. Don't you think he should show the consistency and the same knack that he had in the last 6 when everything was running hot and the crucible was as tight as it was back at the end of last season? Mina?
I think he'll be fine. I think it largely doesn't matter, frankly, for Brock Purdy. I don't think, obviously covering this team, how high the floor is, shall we say, for the quarterbacks. It's a little bit like bumper bowling out there. I think my one concern with San Francisco, who of course has their own talented defensive player, currently not on the field. We'll see how that plays out. It's not about the defense. With the offense, I do think they're very good. They're very talented. They were arguably the best offensive football after the Christian McCaffrey trade. However, they're a little bit shallow and a little bit fragile. I think the offensive line, especially at the tackle position, if Colt McKivitz struggle or right tackle, Trent Williams get hurt, I know those are big ifs. They are not deep. They are not deep behind George Kittle. I think Christian McCaffrey obviously is a player who's been hurt a lot. So they're a team where if they stay healthy around Brock Purdy, I think are absolutely Super Bowl contenders, but I have some concerns about injuries.
All right, so give me 2 teams, one in each conference, that we're not talking about enough. Because and I know we are as attuned to what everybody's talking about since we're the ones, in the midst of doing the talking.
Okay, I'll go AFC. I'm really high on the Steelers. And this is a take I had before Kenny Pickett put up a perfect preseason.
Yes.
But when I went back and watched some of his starts during the offseason, I was really impressed with his playmaking. And I think what you've seen from him in the preseason in terms of his pocket poise, which was an issue last year, the improvements they made on the offensive line, the fact that he is attacking the middle of the field, throwing deep, and that Deontay Johnson and George Pickens might, by the end of this year, be viewed as one of the best 1-2 punches at wide receiver in the entire NFL. I really like that offense. Pass rush is a nightmare right now. They're also they're so deep. Again, like the guys like Nick Herbig, who came out of nowhere this preseason, looks unbelievable. So that division, or the AFC North, is a hellscape, to be blunt. I don't even think they're going to win it, but I think they're going to be a team to be reckoned with in the AFC.
And the NFC, the one that we're not talking about enough, is which one?
I like the Packers. Okay. Is that a good?
Well, you went higher register, which here on the Rich Eisen Show we always note because people need to go higher register frequently to believe their thoughts. So, all right, I'll give you the floor.
I'm trying to be like a little bold. I don't want to give you like a really obvious team. And I think the Packers certainly fit the bill. This is a team that during the offseason people were asking, are they rebuilding? They were all insulted by it. A couple things, this is a defense that has not played to its talent level for a couple of years now. I did have a lot of injuries last season, and I think they should be so much better than they are. So we'll see about that. But I not only like what I saw from Jordan Love this preseason, and he played quite a bit of football. Watching him, I realized, man, he is really being put in a good position to succeed. One of the best, deepest offensive lines in the NFL, talented young skill players, a play caller in Matt LaFleur, who I think is tremendous. And now he has a quarterback where I think he can really scheme up some easy opportunities for him, take advantage of his mobility. So I would not be surprised if they have more wins than people expect.
All right, before I let you go on your Friday and your Labor Day weekend, Mina, so you said Chiefs and Eagles.
So lame.
No, that's no. It's fine. Who did you choose to win the whole shooting match?
Man,
did you go repeat?
I am bravely choosing the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay,
Rich. The Chris Jones thing worries me though. It does.
I'm with you because that might cost them a seed.
Yes.
Right, or 2. It might potentially make things tighter in the AFC West than they're used to. But Mahomes can win a playoff game on the road. Mahomes in Cincinnati in an AFC Championship game would be must-watch television. Everything would be obviously involving him. But okay, so that's one thing. And then before I let you go, if you don't mind indulging us, we have been playing a win-loss game with our callers and listeners and viewers. where we ask them to choose game by game, win by win, or loss by loss, what the final record of a team is going to be. And I'd love for you to do that for the Seattle Seahawks, if you don't mind.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Okay.
I'll take off my Homer hat.
That's okay. That's all right. Just understand, people get lost in it. Jake Tapper had the Eagles go 16-1 and said, "What the hell just happened?"
But not that kind of Homer.
Okay, I don't know. Here we go. Yeah. Kyle Brandt came on in hour number 1, and he had the Bears go 13-4 with Justin Fields winding up winning MVP, Eberflus Coach of the Year, and Darnell Wright being the Rookie of the Year. So just be careful.
You make me feel good.
We just counsel you to be careful. All right, and we give some inspiration. Right. Here we go. Mina Kimes. Here we go. There's the music for inspiration. Seattle Seahawks win-loss game with Mina Kimes of the worldwide leader. Home for the Rams.
Win.
At the Detroit Lions.
Win.
2-0 against the Carolina Panthers at home.
Win. Oh, no. At
the New York Giants on a Monday night.
This is actually my due date, so I'm going to say... I'll say a loss for the Seahawks and a win for me personally.
Okay, but that's called even if you lose, you win. That's a LeVar Ball right there. Okay, very good. That's what we call that here on the Rich Eisen Show. At the Cincinnati Bengals, coming off of a bye with a newborn. At 3-1. Loss. Okay. Yeah. 3-2 home for the Cardinals.
Win.
Okay. I don't know. It depends on. I guess, are they taking the bus or are they driving themselves?
They got fire in their guts, Rich. That's a win.
I don't know what that was about. Home for the Cleveland Browns. 4-2.
Win.
5-2 at the Ravens.
Loss.
5-3 home for the Commanders.
Win.
6-3 at the Rams.
Win.
7-3 Thanksgiving night home against the Niners.
Loss. Sam Darnold. That's going to ruin my Thanksgiving.
Wow, she went Sam Darnold. How about that? That's quite the call. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 4 at the Cowboys the following Thursday.
Loss.
7-5 at the Niners.
Win. I'll split it.
Okay. 8-5 home for the Eagles.
Loss.
8-6 at the Titans.
Win.
9-6 home for the Steelers.
Feels like an annoying loss.
9-7 at the Cardinals.
Win.
10-7.
Reasonable?
By the way, very reasonable,
very well
Mina.
Unlike most people.
So, are you gonna? Is the birth of the child gonna be on the Manning cast? What's happening, Mina? Is it the plan? Omaha.
That bad boy might get induced if he pushes too close to game time. I'll say that.
Is it a boy? Is it a boy?
It is a boy, yeah.
A masculine
he's got to
learn,
what the priorities are.
Understood. Yes. My wife and I, Susie and I, induced, so our daughter, who just turned 10, was around for the season kickoff years ago, believe it or not. That actually happened. That's our lives, Mina. That's our lives. Don't shy away from it. Have a great last month as you're ready for your child, your boy to arrive. And thanks for the time here. Greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Always blessed.
You bet. At Mina Kimes. Follow her on all social media. Kind enough to zoom in here the Friday before Labor Day weekend right here on The Rich Eisen Show. Catch The Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern for free.